welcome back to Kath and Mikey Make a Podcast. I'm Kath, and I'm here with my co-host, Mikey.
Hey there.
Hi. It's been a while.
It's been a while, but now we're back to normal.
Yeah. We're gonna, well, I don't know if you've noticed for a while, but we are now switching to two times, no, said that wrong. Twice, no. A bi-weekly, we've switched to a bi-weekly schedule. We thought that would be better to record, edit, and all those shenanigans.
With school and work and whatnot.
And our lives in general. Today we are reviewing Promising Young Woman. Great stuff today. What were your thoughts? I don't know, non-spoiler thoughts.
Non-spoiler thoughts. Mostly positive, almost 80% positive, I'd say. There were some scenes where the dialogue felt a little like it felt a little like a course in how women are not treated fairly as men. Some stuff that I felt like, I've heard this before, but the movie levels up way beyond those conversations.
I feel like if the movie, if it wasn't such a good screenplay, it could just be like a pandering to the choir.
Exactly, yeah.
Kind of thing.
Pandering to the choir, but it didn't stop there. It kept going, and it has two twists without giving anything away, and both of them just level up the movie substantially.
Yeah, they kind of sell it for me.
Me too.
It's a bit sad that it's towards the end, but also good that it's towards the end, because
it finishes really strong.
And it carries you in a way that it keeps you engaged, and it delivers. Really, it does.
And the main character is really likable, a really wonderful performance. What is the actress?
Carey Mulligan.
Carey Mulligan?
Yeah.
Yeah, she is so good.
Yeah, I think I've admired her in other things ever since she first came out in Pride and Prejudice, I believe it's 2007 movie, Pride and Prejudice.
Bo Burnham as well.
Whoa, yeah.
I didn't know he could act so well. And Alfred Molina has a brief scene, but he's great in it. Yeah,
and we also have Alison Brie is in it, Clancy Brown, Jennifer Coolidge, Laverne Cox. She does a great role, and Connie Britton. They're all there.
What is this? This is kind of like a thriller. Vigilante
it's a
indie
black
movie.
They call it like a black comedy thriller.
I guess it is kind of funny. It definitely is funny, but I just didn't consider that as one of the main draws, but now that you mention it, it definitely is.
Yeah, it has some funny moments, but they're not haha funny. They're like, oh boy.
Oh boy.
Well, this movie, its budget was $5 to $10 million, and
wow.
At the box office, it made $13.3 million. So it's not necessarily.
This came out during the pandemic.
It did.
That makes sense.
It did. It originally premiered. Yes, it originally premiered in the Sundance Film Festival in January of 2020. But the theatrical release in the States came out in December. I think in Christmas Day. It came out in December 25, 2020. However, it was very well received by the critics. And it won Best Screenplay in the Academy Awards and the Oscars. It was nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actress for Mulligan. It also received nominations for the Golden Globes for Best Motion Picture as a Drama. And it got 6 nominations in the BAFTA.
Wow.
Where it won Outstanding British Film and Best Original Screenplay. So.
Yeah, and I'm glad it got so well recognized because it deserves it. Yeah, good performances. It's really pretty for the budget that they had and the type of movie that it is.
I was gonna comment on how there's so many like bright shots, like bright colors, and for a movie that touches on very deep, very important themes.
It's a heavy movie.
It's very heavy, but you just keep watching it because you're like, it's so pretty.
Yeah.
So much pink.
And on that note, like, it's not the kind of movie that I can watch every day or every month even, because it's emotionally taxing in the same way that, you know, it doesn't give me the same feeling. But just as an example, I can't watch Titanic every day.
No.
Like, it's not really fun. Like, I wouldn't put it on to go to sleep.
No.
But the movie is also really good at sowing the seeds of what's to come later on in the movie as it goes along, without stopping things to be like, okay, here's what's going on. There's no smart character delivering exposition.
No, thank God. And yeah, it's one of those movies that trusts that the audience is getting what it's saying. And yeah, it's pretty good. So that's our non-spoiler take.
I'd say like 8.5. It's great.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Watch it.
I'd say 8.5. If you out there would rather see the movie, go for it. See the movie first and then come back. See if you agree with us. Let us know in the comments section. Before we start, though, we want to say that we are now gonna be like an official podcast out there. Yeah,
coming soon.
Very
should say to Spotify and is it Apple Podcasts?
Apple Podcasts. Yeah. I think even Google Play. We will be available on all the platforms that show podcasts.
Hopefully. Yeah.
Hopefully.
I'm figuring out Transistor right now.
Yeah.
But once we get the ball rolling, we'll let you know. We'll, I'm sure, update our podcast covers with those other spots that we're in.
Yeah, definitely.
And links.
All the links. So let's start. Let's do this.
Let's do it.
So I want to start with the opening title. And it's the first thing I wrote in my notes, obviously. I thought it was very interesting because it was just shots of men dancing. Like, you know how to show you there's a party, they usually show like girls dancing around and like, cool music in the background.
It was the inverse of that.
The inverse of all of these, like, very regular men. They weren't also like these hot supermodels that were showing.
Yeah, it was just like bulges pushing in the front of normal suit pants.
Yeah. It was very, I thought it was funny.
Yeah. Which, you know, right off the bat, I did not know what to expect from this movie. I knew it was probably going to get heavy, but I was thinking, is this going to lean more towards comedy? Because this is...
Yeah, the trailer was a little bit... from the trailer, it kind of gives you a feeling that it's going to be like a lady serial killer. I don't know if you got that too from the trailer.
Completely got that vibe.
Yeah, it was like, oh, I guess she's killing men. Cool. Okay.
They even want you to think that within the first part of the movie.
Yeah.
They don't reveal what she's doing.
No, they let you know later what she's up about.
But back to the men dancing. Yeah, I think it's interesting because even if it were women in business suits, I still don't think it would have gotten our attention as much.
No.
You know, we'd just be like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it would be just very typical. I also like that, like, immediately after that, there's like this boys club conversation that the characters there are having. There's like, well, it's like, at first you're not really sure what they're talking about, but then you're like, oh, it's this. It's apparently this. It sounds like there's a lady that she's complaining that they don't include her in things. It's like, well, why does she not feel included? Like, I don't get it. Like, we go golf. Like, can't she golf? Kind of conversations. Like, well, it's a men's only
club,
like golf country club, and it felt like we said it might be a bit pandering. Like, yeah, we've heard that before, but also it's like, yeah, I've heard that before because it's true,
right?
And you feel it everywhere, especially if you're in like the more corporate
it's
side of the world.
It's not officially leaving somebody out, but it's like, oh, sorry, this is where we're gonna be, and while we're playing golf, we're probably going to talk about
all the business and we're gonna be in the in and you're gonna be in the out.
Exactly.
Or it's like, oh, I guess we're going for dinner. It happens to be at a strip club.
We'll brush you up on this afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Go home to your kids
You're
or whatever you do at home.
Even close to as engaged with the client, or, you know, you're not nearly as much in their good graces.
Yeah. Yeah, because probably they're going with the client. They're taking out the client out to golf or drinks or whatever. And, well, you
and
may
then
be...
it's like, who is she?
Yeah. What's this? Broad. And that's when we meet our main character too. She's pretending to be drunk, or we find out later that she's pretending to be drunk. And there's a line that I wrote down. They say, oh, they put themselves in danger, girls like that.
Right.
And again,
conversation always comes up after pretty much any story of rape or sexual assault.
Any.
Sadly.
Yeah. And and this has been, at least here, it has been part of the conversation with the recent woman that disappeared and was later found out that she was dead in the lagoon.
Yeah.
Where it's a matter of local news here, but basically she was like the lover who got pregnant and
of a married man
who's a boxer
for 10 years.
Yeah, they were together for like 10 to 11 years since they were kids. And then he didn't want her to have the kid. And basically, he just lured her to a spot, punched her in the face. He's a boxer, as I said. Punched her in the face, dragged her, and threw her over a bridge here.
I can't fathom killing a person already. But then a person who I probably laughed with, who I had fun with, called Pretty, you know, just had all these memories with. And you can just do that because you don't want to be embarrassed. You don't want it to. It's gonna ruin my marriage. Well, what were you doing?
Yeah, then. Yeah, it's like an inability to face consequences. But I only bring this up because of the public narrative of like, well, what was she doing with a married man?
Yeah.
Well, she shouldn't have put herself in that situation. And it's like, really, we're blaming the victim. It's this whole idea of victim blaming that I like that they show that in just like one sentence. They show us what this might be about. And what ends up being about Carey Mulligan's character, Casey Thomas, we find out that what she is trying to process with this whole being a vigilante, she's trying to process her friend's suicide when she was raped, because she eventually committed suicide because she was raped in med school.
And they never outright say that she committed suicide, but
no, but
it's
you
implied.
know.
Yeah, it's like you find it out way before they make it obvious, and you know that that's the reason. And I think that's really effective.
Yeah, I think it's effective. It's effective storytelling
And I love that they don't do the thing where it's like, let's flash back to when they were best friends and they were all chummy.
Yeah.
They just like have her in her bed alone looking at a laptop. And you just hear them like laughing or whatever. Or it's like them as kids.
Yeah, and it's basic. You don't see like, oh, this is the good times and now it's the bad times.
Yeah.
You just see the trauma of the person that was left behind.
Exactly. You're looking at the
baggage.
fallout.
Yeah, and I also like that they used conversations and recordings or sound bites to tell the story, how she eventually like towards the climax of the story. The screenplay or the story uses video, and we don't even see the video. We just hear what's happening in the video and her crying.
Yeah,
her eyes out.
I mean, to me, they never did anything like gratuitous. Like,
no.
Nothing for the sake of it. Like, they used the bare minimum strokes to like let you know what is happening.
I think Emerald Fennell did a really good job, both as writing and director.
She did a really good job of putting you in her headspace of this character, Casey, right? Who is doing something that by all standards is insane. Like, what she's doing is fucking crazy. But they put you in her headspace and have you understand her enough that you're always on her side. And it's even a line later where a guy's like, you're fucking crazy, and she goes, I don't think I am. And I felt her on that.
Yeah.
Because what she's doing is against the law. It's you get put in prison for that. Like, that is not the way, but you feel how powerless she feels, and that this is the only way to get back at them when there's no evidence and nothing to work on off of.
And when she finally gets the evidence, in the end, she pays for it.
She pays for it big time, but also plans this master revenge.
Yeah, which is amazing.
Amazing, and not revealed until the last second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back to that first scene. I kept thinking, because in the conversation that I was mentioning about the boys club thing, he kind of makes like the counter arguments, but like, oh, come on, like, why would you say that? You know, it's like, is he supposed to be like a good guy, in quotes? I wrote that down, and
there's so many good guys in quotes.
Yeah, there's so many good guys in quotes. And she like picks her up. It's like, oh, let me take you home. And she's like, okay. And then she's supposed to take her home, but then you see that he sees that she's drunk. It's like, well, my apartment's like really close by. Like, do you want to have like a nightcap? Like,
and she never
drink.
Says yes. She just
she
kind
doesn't
of,
say.
And he's like, yeah, let's go to my place.
Yeah. And and he gives her a drink, and you see that he pours her like a full glass, and he only pours himself like a little.
That was so bad.
It's like those details that you're like, and then towards, and and you see like, so many things. There's so many things. Like, and he starts kissing her, and she's like completely like not engaging in the kissing. I don't know if you noticed that.
No, I noticed it was making my penis go back inside my body. Everything was going back inside.
Like,
I was cringing so hard.
and then that's where which is a scene that we've seen in the trailer before, where he's trying to like go down on her. And like she goes like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And all of a sudden she gets up, what are you doing?
Yeah, in a completely sober tone.
And he freaks out.
Yeah.
They always freak out.
They always freak out.
And it's like, oh, you're not drunk? What the heck?
Oh, so you were fully aware that I was
doing
intoxicated.
Yeah.
Like, because if they notice that subtle change, it's like they knew what they were doing 100%.
Of course. Yeah. And I like how she completely dismantles this, like, oh, but I'm a good guy. Like, I'm not like the other guys. No, I treat you right. And it's like, do you?
Yeah.
Are you?
The "you know how many good guys I've met" line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then it cuts to her walking home, and like there's like red jelly dripping on her leg. Well, it just looks like red, but then you realize she's eating like a red jelly donut.
Still playing with the idea that she's a murderer.
And there's like a catcalling scene when she's walking home. It's like these construction workers. I don't know if you remember the construction workers are like catcalling her, and she just stands there and looks back at them to the point that it's so uncomfortable that they're like, oh, what the fuck? Like, what do you want? She doesn't say anything. It's like she just stares back and then keeps walking. I thought it was great. And there's obviously this is a movie, but there's so many times that women wish they could do that, but you can't do that. That you just have to keep walking because you don't know what might happen.
Yeah.
And it's how are men not aware? Like, it's the lack of self-awareness when you're catcalling someone. Like, for them, it's like gratifying for like 2 seconds maybe when they're catcalling a woman. But for the woman, it stays with them at least until they get home or they get to a safe space.
Yeah. And
probably they will remember it later on. Like they don't forget that shit. And it's not like, a guy catcalled me on the street. It's fuck. Something could have happened to me.
When I lived in Rhode Island, all my girlfriends would complain about that.
So it's empowering, that scene, but at the same time, you're like, gosh, I wish I could actually do that.
Right. Sure.
It's not really in the cards, is it?
Yeah. Part of a little bit of this movie is a power fantasy, right?
Yeah, it is. It is a power fantasy, definitely. And it's a power fantasy that it's obviously written by a woman and directed by a woman. I don't think it could happen any other way.
Like, she gets messed with, but she messes with them back because she feels like she has nothing to lose.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But how many women actually feel that way?
I'm guessing not a lot.
Yeah. Basically the story is about, like I said, Casey Thomas. She dropped out of med school along with her friend Nina Fisher, who dropped out of med school because of the rape, which never ended getting resolved. When it was in med school, there were no consequences for the guy who raped her, and the guy who raped her actually now has a full career, about to get married.
Oh yeah, anesthesiologist.
And all of their med school classmates have like successful careers, and except Nina and Casey, who dropped out.
So crippled by depression. Yeah,
crippled by depression and languishing, which is a term now, according to New York Times. And it's obvious that even after Nina dies, she's still unable to process this, and like the only way she can process this is through going out and seeking out these guys that are not necessarily like, like a bunch of douchebags, this typical douchebag kind of person. Yeah. But who, in moments of vulnerability of the other person, of the woman,
will pray.
They will pray and will not care and will have no remorse. It's like, well, we were drunk. Like,
I wonder if she ever went out to do this and a guy just took her home. She was like, oh, thank you. Shit, have to go back to the club.
I guess not tonight.
Yeah.
Shit.
He's like, stay safe out there. Okay, bye.
Bye. Maybe call me. No. I also like there's another scene with the other guy who's just taking a bunch of cocaine.
The guy who's writing a book.
Yeah, he's writing a book, and he makes a couple of comments. It's funny because these are all men that you've seen. Well, at least not you, but I've seen before. Like going out, you see them, and if you're lucky, you don't get to interact with them, but you see them from afar, and you're like, oh, I know that person. I know this person.
This one in particular was McLovin.
McLovin.
Of Superbad fame.
Yeah, he looks the same.
He looks the same with a little bit of facial hair.
Yeah, he plays the same character. Well, if the character would have grown up to be horrible.
McLovin had a pure heart. How dare you?
Yeah, and he makes a comment like, I never understand like why women wear so much makeup, and you're just like, gosh, someone put him out of his misery, or put me out of my misery.
I think you're beautiful.
It's like the system is made to oppress.
Yeah, virtue signaling.
Yeah, and when he finds out that she's actually not a drunk or high, it's
like, oh fuck.
It's like, I'm so high right now. And it's like, I'm a nice guy. And she's like, are you? And that was like.
And it's scary. Not guaranteed that these guys are never going to do it again. But I guess she tries to teach them a lesson, and I think what's more is it feels cathartic for her to call these people out when they find out that she isn't helpless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. And like you said, it's kind of a power fantasy, and maybe even like wishful thinking, like what would have happened.
Yeah, kinda. And you see how it takes away from the rest of her life, how she's drifted from her parents.
Yeah, I was about to comment that.
Mm-hmm. She doesn't really do anything with her friends, even though she's chummy with her co-worker at the coffee shop.
Mm-hmm. She just works at a coffee shop, which is fine. A lot of people work at coffee shops.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's not what I'm saying. Just that, like, it's that and then the club at night to do this.
Yeah, that's all she does.
There's no room for anything else in her life.
It's, like, completely consumed her.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think even through the movie, I was like, she needs therapy.
Yeah, you said that out loud.
But it's like, this is her therapy in a way, but it's not a very healthy kind of therapy.
No.
At all. It's just like going through the motions and repeating again and again and again.
Yeah, and she doesn't seem to get any real satisfaction out of it. It's just a temporary fix.
Yeah, and she, at some point, when she finds out that the guy that raped her friend is about to get married. That's
and is
when
back in town.
Yeah, and that's when she switches, like
she has a mission now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's sad that that's what becomes her drive.
Mm-hmm.
And what becomes the drive of the movie.
What ultimately does her in.
Mm-hmm. And she first targets Alison Brie's character, Madison.
Fucking Madison.
Fucking Madison McPhee.
See, I saw her and I was like, ugh, I know you.
Yeah. And I think she did a good job. Like, I know you made a comment about how she's like, it's like average.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, I think that was the point.
No, but yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you. She did a good job.
To portray that, like, basic.
Basic snob.
Yeah, basic snob. Like, well, now I'm married. And, oh my God.
What about you? What are you doing? Oh, well, that's okay.
Really?
Yeah, I know it's okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And she...
real quick. You see that Casey makes a point. I don't think she drinks at all in this movie. But she, pours some ginger ale in her cup to make sure that Madison gets drunk.
Yeah. which looks exactly like champagne.
Yeah.
And that's when you, like, she pours, like, she kind of, you notice in that conversation that it's like a catch-up conversation, and you notice that she kind of gives her, like, the benefit of the doubt. Like, maybe time has made her realize that what actually happened was, rape.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, like, come on, like, really brushes it off, like, we were all drunk, like, everyone was.
I love that every target she has, she almost always gives them the benefit of the doubt. I think everyone except the last person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And once Madison brushes, like, oh, like when you cry wolf, like, well, if she was that promiscuous, like, what do you expect?
Yeah.
Kind of attitude. She was like, okay, let's keep drinking.
That's when I knew she was going down.
Yeah, she was going down.
But she calls that guy from the bar, who she's obviously hired, and he's like, are you sure about this? And she's like, yeah. And she gives her the room key for Madison's room, I think.
Which at first you were like, what? Did she just pay a prostitute
to sexually assault her? And I thought that, like, okay, well, if she did that, then she's clearly in the wrong. Because why would she put that trauma on someone else just to make them understand? But I was hoping they didn't do that, and of course they didn't do that.
No, and later on we find out that it was just, like, to put her to bed. But I think that the intention was to make her go a little crazy.
To make her believe that she had
that something
fucked around.
Happened. Because she kept calling her and calling her. She wouldn't take her calls. And then later it's like, it's fine, he just put you to bed.
Yeah.
And that's when she gives her the video, which we'll talk about later. But yeah, it did drive a point, I think, and it's what makes the character at least produce some of the evidence she needed.
Yeah, inadvertently, because she had no idea she had it.
Yeah. There's so that's one of the persons in the list. I think probably because she was the closest one to the friend group, this Madison. So she starts there. But she has a whole laundry list of people that she has things to make, not amends necessarily with, but, she has, like, grudges against, who you notice that they in some way enable this to be a cover-up rather than to seek justice. She later goes to Walker. Elizabeth Walker, she's the dean of the med school who handled the case. And Walker, the conversation with Walker, we find out, like, exactly why Nina and why Casey dropped out of med school because of the rape. And we even find out really, like, who Nina is. It's like, because we don't really know who Nina is, I think, until that point. We're really unsure who she is.
Yeah.
And we also find out, like, more details that the guy that raped her, I think his name is, like, Al Monroe. It's like, it was like a whole thing. It wasn't just a rape. It was like a rape while all his friends were watching and like, cheering him on.
Yep.
She, like, Nina later had bruises and was clearly, like, physically like, beaten down from the assault.
Yeah.
And
so not only was it, like, a powerless, invasive, awful thing, but on top of that it was humiliating
and public.
Yeah.
And I like that there's both men and female characters that she faces, because it kind of drives the point that it doesn't matter if it's men or female, like, you can still be an enabler of
That's a really good
assault.
point.
Because she was a female dean. Sometimes some of us women, like, think for some reason that will find a sense of sorority with other women, and that it's not exactly the case. Like the patriarchy is strong, and it can be furthered by anyone.
Yeah. I think that's really important to this movie being balanced in its approach to the topic.
Yeah.
But this, the conversation with the dean is where I felt the most like, okay, it's getting a little pandery.
A little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember what exactly was said, but I remember that scene rubbing me a little before
maybe it was like,
she
oh, well,
finds
why
out
would you
about
ruin a young man's life? Kind of thing.
Yeah, it just seemed so stagey.
And but there was the whole thing where she like lures the dean's daughter to a place and kind of makes her think that she's
her
like,
favorite band is gonna be there.
Yeah, but it was and she takes her phone and kind of makes it seem like, well, I'm doing the same thing you did like happened to Nina, but again, it's not real. It's just to make her, shit her pants a bit.
And her benefit of the doubt moment was like, do you remember Nina? And she's like, no, sorry. And she waits for the dean to make all those justification for the boys.
Let her talk.
And then she reveals that thing about her daughter. And she's just like, it's just the same thing as with Nina. And she freaks out. So, now it's not okay?
Yeah.
I thought that was effective.
It clearly was. We haven't yet talked about Bo Burnham's character. He comes up way before any of this.
Rolls up to the cafe, charming as fuck.
Charming as fuck. A nice guy.
Yeah, I thought, is this gonna be the nice guy who shows her that not all guys are that bad?
Men.
Because he genuinely, he even makes her think that he's the real deal. Like,
yeah.
And when he's revealed not to be later, it was genuinely shocking.
It
was like, fuck, not that one too.
Maybe all men.
Because it was really romantic.
Yeah, it was very like almost cheesy, kind of romantic, like
almost.
Living the whole fantasy,
But it was like just realist enough. Like the way they interacted with each other. Like I like one scene where they're in bed and she's like interrupting him because he's trying to say that he loves her, and he's like, "Shut up, you stupid bitch."
Yeah, and I like the scene where they first meet. It's like, I'll let you spit on my coffee, and she goes like,
she literally spits in his coffee.
He's like, do you want to go out with me, like on a date? It's cute. It's too cute. Squint's eyes.
Yeah, and he also seems totally cool with like, she works at a coffee shop now. I guess she just didn't want to have it that way, and then later says such a dick line just because he's backed up into a corner, and it's like, okay, so that's what you're really like.
Yeah, and it's because of him when he mentions this Al Monroe that gets Casey moving on.
Yeah, that's how she finds out that the guy who raped her friend is back in town. And
apparently he had left the jurisdiction. He was in like London for a while, so it
God damn it
shows you like they kind of knew in some level. Well, they did know in some level that this what he did was fucked up. Like everyone knew. But it was just like, brush it.
And he was also
off.
She asked him, "You hung out with those guys?" And he goes, "Yeah, not that much." But just enough to fuck up.
I also, his character also serves a purpose to show another aspect of how traumatized Casey is. That in the beginning, when they're starting to kind of sort of go out, she cannot, like, she's unable to like have an actual connection.
Yeah.
even though she seems like she wants
really
to, but
touch him or kiss him.
Yeah,
like when she, kisses these guys at the club every night, just to get under their skin.
It's no.
Oh no, that was it.
Yeah, and it's different. Like this, like what she does at the club, it's like her work. It's what she does. Whereas her relationship with his character's name is Ryan Cooper. It's more real. It's like real life interactions with the other sex.
Just very normal
that are devoid of the whole club thing.
She can't do it.
Yeah. So it shows how deep it goes for her. There's another scene where I think it's probably like the third time we see her like try to lure a guy. That ends up being like one of the other guys that the first guy was hanging out with in the beginning. That she like after this is a bit after she tells him like, yeah, like I want to take it slow kind of thing, blah blah blah. That she bumps into Ryan while she's like pretending to be drunk and going out with a guy, and he's obviously what he sees from the situation, he's like kind of pissed at it, and then she like wakes up from this into sobriety again, and the other guy notices like, wait, what, you're not drunk?
Oh right, yeah.
And he's like, oh, you're that crazy chick. Or I think he'll start like a psycho.
Yeah, at that
and
moment.
It's like, why do you guys have to ruin everything? That's what he says. And I mean, we've seen it before in the movie.
Yeah, a million times.
And Ryan
like the whole
like, oh, you guys always ruin everything. Why don't you get the joke? Why are you always like...
Wait, are you talking about when Ryan sees her with the guy coming out of the club?
With the fedora. I think she comments on her fedora. I'm not sure.
Yeah, she shits on him.
I like that part.
But this is also a trope we see in pretty much every romantic comedy, and it's that moment of misunderstanding.
Yes.
Where the characters are at their lowest point, but it actually gets resolved pretty quickly because that's not what this is about. But Ryan turns to her all hurt, his feelings all hurt, and he's like, if you didn't like me, you just could have said so.
Yeah.
And then just walks in.
You kind of feel bad for him.
I felt really bad for him.
And then it gets resolved, and they're all back together. Meets her
better
parents.
Than ever.
Better than ever. Meets her parents.
And her parents are like, man, you're doing so much better.
Yeah.
Glad to have you back.
Yeah, and you really see and she closes Facebook or whatever social media that she's using, and it's like, no, I'm gonna put that behind me. And then Madison just comes back with that fateful
with that video,
and I think that's where everything crumbles.
Everything. And she watches it in horror,
which we don't see, like I mentioned.
Yeah,
I think
it doesn't show it.
That was good. I don't think
it was purely driven by her expression. And then she hears his voice.
Yeah, at first I didn't recognize the voice, but then she goes visit him at the hospital, and you think maybe it's like, look what I found, to find comfort in him.
Exactly,
and then you realize
that's what I thought.
Just to confront him and tell him what a piece of shit
because
he is.
Because he was the cameraman.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think this was the first twist, right? Yeah, that he actually, even though he didn't really remember, he was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, do we know if he actually didn't remember?
We don't know for sure. It's what he says.
Yeah, right.
We can only go off. And when she confronted him, he genuinely seemed surprised, like, oh, yeah. It came back to him.
Yeah.
But for Casey, that's even worse. That he was there and he doesn't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they were just kids. We were just kids.
Yeah.
We were just 21, 22-year-old kids.
Yeah, I hate that. It's like, we were just kids. Yeah, like you said, no, you're adults. Yes, you're in grad school, or med school or whatever, but that doesn't take away the fact that you are grown-ass men doing grown-ass shit.
Yeah.
And ruining people's lives.
And he was like, I love you. Like, he sort of stammers and he's like, please, you have to forgive me.
And she's like, no.
She's like, no. Yeah, which, she confronted Alfred Molina's character earlier, the lawyer.
Yeah, she did. I think that was surprising. That was a surprising scene. That was a great scene. And like you said, Alfred Molina, he plays a Mr. Green. He's the lawyer that defended Al Monroe, or like got the charges to be dropped, because basically what they did, like you kind of find out, it's not explicitly said, but that they dig up like all the stuff that Nina did, like as a normal person. All the people she had sex with, all the things she would do, all the parties she would go to, which everyone apparently was doing, from what you can gather from the movie. Everyone was in the same boat.
Yeah.
And they basically destroyed her, whatever case she could have had.
Yeah.
And he's the only one to remember Nina's name.
Yep.
Because he knows exactly who she's talking about. And you see that he's already, like, because she remembers her name and remembers all the other cases, he did the same thing.
He had already quit.
He had quit his firm.
He was basically pleading with her for
sleeping
forgiveness.
In his living room, chain smoking cigarettes. Like, you see his life, it's already like in shambles, because he's consumed with the guilt.
And one of the things he said is, I will never forgive myself.
Yeah.
If that helps.
Yeah, I think that kind of sold it for Casey, because the plan, as it turns out, was she had hired someone to beat the shit out of him.
Yeah, and he wasn't doing it in a groveling kind of way, because when she was at the door, she was like, your day of reckoning is here. And he goes, I thought this was coming. He was very accepting of whatever his punishment was going to be, but at the same time, he was just like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
And she said, I forgive you.
Yeah, she did. And it obviously doesn't touch on it necessarily, but it does bring up, at least for me, like the role that I've said it before, so many characters took a part in how to cover this up, but like the role that attorneys have in covering some stuff, and the borderline unethical things attorneys go through. Like, they take the code of ethics and just like wipe their asses with it, just because, and they justify it by saying, well, I have to protect my client's interest. And that's like what in the enabling shit is that?
This is the reason everybody makes fun of lawyers.
Yeah. Yeah. And it gives lawyers a bad name because of what, like, some of them do. A lot of them do. Like,
what do you do again? You work at Starbucks, right?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
And yeah, and it's so it's very frustrating. And you, I don't know, as an attorney, you think you can choose your cases, and you can choose your cases, but it just boggles my mind how just in the interest of the client and of the amounts of money they're gonna give you, you just like
mostly the second one.
Yeah, mostly the second one. It's like, well, I guess it's my job to, protect my client.
Yeah, because taking on a piece of shit has to be a hard case, right?
Yeah,
So you want a lot of money for it.
Yeah.
It's not because I like you as a person. I want to protect your rights.
Yeah, And I don't. It's a tricky situation, especially when it's criminal law, because the accused has rights. They do have rights, but it's the lengths you're willing to go to, when is it just protecting your client's constitutional rights, and when do you realize? I've never done criminal law, and that's probably why I stay a little bit away from it, because where does it end and when does it start? Where does it end that you're protecting the client's rights, and when does it start that you are enabling a rapist or a murderer or psychopath?
Sometimes the only ethical outcome is that this isn't going to work out the way you want it to.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna do time or whatever the thing is. Like these are just the facts.
Yeah, but a lot of people will disagree with me.
Yeah. Well, looks like I'm getting a new lawyer.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So a lot of lawyers are like, well, I'd rather keep the client, I guess, than just like, tell them to like pack their bags and go somewhere else.
Yeah, that's lawyers without integrity. Integrity.
And I'm sure like everyone talks about like the OJ case, like the lengths they went to get him out, and he got out.
Yeah, but this is different because OJ was innocent.
Okay. But that's all I'm gonna say about that.
Yeah.
And Ryan, that scene with Ryan, it ends up horribly, but I thought it was just what the movie needed, because he calls her like, oh, you fucking failure.
Yeah.
He says like, oh, do you want me to end up just like you? Like she's gonna ruin his career kind of thing.
Yeah.
And
she looks back at him and she's like, nice one, Ryan.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah,
wow.
like
good one. Like, let me clap for you right there.
It's just such an embarrassing moment for him, and destroys any goodwill that you had like, built up towards him.
Yeah, that character was just like,
yeah,
pull him down. She did a Scorpio, like, get over here. And
yeah, see, the difference between him and Alfred Molina's character is, for one, he didn't remember or chose not to remember, and another, he was groveling. Yeah, he wasn't like, I'm sorry and I'll accept my punishment. He was, I'm sorry, don't punish me.
Yeah, please don't.
Yeah, please.
But he gives her where they're gonna be,
the bachelor party.
Yeah, which she eventually decides to go.
Which is her most brilliant scheme.
Really, yeah, it truly shows how smart she is.
Yeah.
So much. She really is a promising young woman. Yeah.
It's a weird way to say it, but yeah.
In the sense that it takes intelligence to pull off, or I think it takes some level of intelligence that, had things gone differently, it would have been put up to some good for the world. She probably would have become like a good doctor, saving kids or whatever.
Yeah.
But she's putting all this energy towards this one goal of framing.
Through trauma, through trauma, you've redirected this person's man, I just had the word, but basically potential. And it's redirected into something that destroys her life. Yeah, when it could have been used to, like you said, help a lot of people.
Yeah. when she gets to the cabin, they're having a bachelor party at a cabin. So
and
manly.
She's being a nurse stripper.
Yeah, nurse stripper.
She's like, all right, boys, everyone on your knees.
Yeah. And I like, there were all these like male gaze shots, which is kind of a comparison with the beginning when we see like men dancing. Like maybe not a straight male gaze, not for the straight male gaze at least. But in this point, it's definitely for the straight male gaze. Of like just shots of her like moving around or like chewing gum or whatever she was doing, and of her face, and then it pans back to them just like
just like naked women are tight. Yeah, and so she puts vodka into the mouths of all the guys that kneel.
Yeah, but I guess it was spiked vodka.
It was spiked vodka, which I didn't realize until
no one was answering.
Yeah, until he starts screaming and nobody gets up. And that's when it just like blew my mind.
Yeah. And she takes Al Monroe upstairs, and he's trying to be like a good boy,
good husband. You know, I don't want to do anything up here.
And he's like, oh well, I like how she lured him, like, if I don't get you to go up, like I don't get paid.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. She's made it into a business transaction.
And she ties him up, and then there's this whole scene of them like interacting, and he's like freaking out and like tied to the bed. But you realize that she's not gonna do anything to him that isn't carve Nina's name.
Yeah.
On over him, I guess, like in his body, carve his name, and there's certain like phrases that stood out to me. Like one of them was like, again, we were kids, which both him and Ryan say it, like we were just kids.
Yeah.
He says it again, and I think she's like, if I hear that one more time, and also like it's every guy's worst nightmare, and she's like, do you know what? It's every woman's worst nightmare.
Yeah. That was a good line.
Yeah.
And I like that she didn't expand upon that. I'm
yeah,
glad she just left it open. Yeah.
And it's a bit ironic for what we're gonna discuss now, that she tells Al that she's putting the handcuffs on him for her safety. And basically when she's gonna carve Nina's name on him, he gets off. He gets
loose. Yeah.
And it ends up in a struggle that he suffocates her.
And
it's so long, that scene, that it's
horribly wrong.
It's painful.
Long,
so painful to watch.
It's genuinely difficult to watch because you like this character, like I said, you're on her side, and the whole time I'm crossing my fingers hoping that she'll just play dead so that he'll get off of the pillow, but it just goes to the point of no return where you're like, nobody could survive that. And her hand gets weaker and weaker, and the whole movie, I love that they were showing you her different colored nail polish, and then finally they show you her hand, because they never show you her face after she's dead, but they show you her hand with the nail polish.
Yeah.
Just lying
there. Great manicure, by the way.
Yeah. And also outside, when they're dragging the body outside, you can see her hand.
So she dies.
And they just kind of like stuff it in like it doesn't matter, like it's just a thing.
Like she's just like a stripper. Just like...
Yeah.
Kind of like you killed a stripper trope.
Yeah, because when his friend gets up, he starts crying like a little boy.
Yeah.
But, like he is a straight up child in this scene.
Oh,
and he's like,
yeah.
I can't believe I did this. And he's like, hey, it's all right, man. Everything's gonna be okay. Spock from Star Trek. So we're gonna go burn this body, and it's gonna be a chill time, bro.
It's gonna be fine, dude. We're just gonna do it.
Which, by the way, at the end, when the cops are coming, his friend is the first to book it. He's like, I got you forever, bro. But he just takes off.
It's so funny. And there are things like that whole process after she dies, it's both gratifying and so sad.
The audience is in mourning. Her parents are in mourning.
So much after, like I just cried the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
Period.
And I thought
her parents, like, you know, it's also the people that are left behind when someone disappears.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things. Like, it's worse. Like, I've heard that it's worse when someone disappears than when they're found dead. In period, because when they're found dead, at least you have some closure that they died, and you can bury a body. But when someone disappears,
you always have hope.
Yeah, there's that hope that just destroys you in many ways, and that's why in a lot of dictatorships, my reference point in Latin America, they wouldn't just kill people, they would disappear them. And it's also like a scare tactic for people to, like, you know, to keep people down in fear.
Yep.
And yeah, it's just horrible to see the parents just like, but she doesn't do this, like she can't just have disappeared, and it's very sad. Ryan is a piece of shit because he knew where she was, and he said nothing.
Lies to the FBI.
Yeah.
You know, for a brief moment, I thought he was going to do the right thing, but he doesn't. No. And the way the wedding is presented to us, I thought that this was going to be the ending of the movie, just like she lost. That's it. Like, they won again. For exactly the reasons she's been saying the entire movie. Yeah,
and I think that's the reason I was crying. I was like, I can't fucking believe that this is actually happening.
Yeah.
And well, thankfully it isn't.
Yeah.
I guess she planned everything, even for her death.
Yeah.
Like, she sent like some papers to Alfred Molina's character to send to the police.
Yep.
She even had like pre-programmed text to send to Ryan. Like, it's me, bitch. Even from before.
Enjoy the wedding.
Enjoy the wedding, bitch.
You didn't think it would be that easy, did you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they find her because she has the Nina's necklace.
Oh my god, perfect.
Ah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she gave her friend at the coffee shop her half of the necklace.
Yeah.
That was really sweet.
Yeah, and everyone gets their just desserts.
Yeah, they get arrested at the wedding.
Yeah.
The bride is freaking out, and the father is like, "Oh, the lawyer won't hear about this."
Yeah. Something we didn't talk about is the scene with Nina Fisher's mom. It's like almost right before.
Oh yeah, I remember.
And it's like that point where it could be a turning point. Where it could be like, well, yeah, I can just let it go. But she doesn't.
She doesn't.
Because even Nina's mom tells her, like, can't keep coming here. Like.
Yeah. And she could have done it without dying.
Maybe. Yeah.
100%.
No, yeah.
She had the evidence.
Yeah, but it also shows you too, like, the mind of someone that is so obsessed with because of the trauma, and it's so, like, you know,
it's the kind of thing, like, it was the ultimate version of what she'd been doing the whole movie, where she wanted the power and she wanted him to know that it was her.
Yeah, but she was so, you know, consumed with, you know, having like blinders that only show her like one way out of the situation, or at least one outcome only. It's sad.
Yeah. especially
it's a
because
bittersweet ending.
if she had met a good guy, not in quotes, that
like a
was
genuinely good person.
That was like Bo's character, but not a secret piece of shit. Then it might have gone another way because
Maybe?
she was ready to sort of pack that stuff in, you know, and probably would have just given this evidence to the police, sent the letters to that lawyer.
Yeah.
But no, like it was kind of like the last straw.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
And, you know, she had just gone to therapy maybe too.
Yeah, that's our main closing thought. She should have gone to therapy. Stupid movie.
Stupid movie. 0 out of 10.
0 out of 10.
Would not recommend to a friend.
Do not direct a movie ever again, director. Emerald.
Just kidding.
Why don't you learn about therapizing? Yeah, it's good.
It's good.
So yeah, I think that's about it for Promising Young Woman. Do you have anything else to say?
No, I don't have anything else to say besides that I enjoyed it, despite despite the ending. I also
bittersweet.
I also like the whole theme on sweets. Get it? Maybe it's just me, but like throughout the movie, we see the character like she works at a coffee shop with like pastries and she's eating sweets all the time and
very candy colored movie.
Very candy colored.
I don't know what to think about that though. What is that about?
Just desserts.
Yeah. Do you think it's all for a pun?
I don't know, but I like it if it is.
That's funny.
I like the pun, just desserts.
That is a good closing thought.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'd say that's been Kat and Mikey Make a Podcast episode 15.
15. Oh. We're just moving on.
Trucking along
Keep on
here.
trucking.
Keep on keeping on, y'all.
Okay.
Okay.
That's it.
Thanks,
Bye,
everybody.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.